Of the sacred text religion, some went further and claimed that these holy books were actually dictated by gods and not the works of mortals. These texts contained information which was infallible. Furthermore, because the communications of divine beings were unlike those of mortals, these texts could be used to open a channel to the divine realm by proxy, borrow the creative power of the gods. One early example of this comes from the Egyptian pyramid texts. These were secret inscriptions written on the tombs to instruct the dead kings the safe path into the afterlife. Over time, however, these tombs were broken into and the texts copied. The commoners were illiterate and saw these inscriptions not as instructions from the gods, but relics of raw, undifferentiated power. Egyptian amulets containing phrases from these texts were worn for protection, for power, and for anything one desired. The meaning had been entirely appropriated by the user and had little or nothing to do with the original intent. But the connection had been made between secret text and magical power. Sometime later, the Greeks were tying scrolls of the Iliad to the wounds of soldiers injured on the battlefield, believing the text was so wholesome and perfect that its mere proximity would heal anything that was broken. Kabbalah is also based under these assumptions. As Hebrew temple sacrificial religion made the difficult transition into a faith of prayer, the Torah became much more than a book of laws and history. It became more than a communication directly from God. The Talmudic tradition, which founded Judaism as it is understood today, deems the Torah to be the third perfect creation of God. The first great creation is the macrocosm of the universe. The second is the microcosm of humanity, made in the image of God. But the third perfect creation was the Torah, a mesocosm. The Torah was a shadow of God that completed the trinity of mankind's interaction with the universe. By utilizing that text, all things were at least technically possible. The modern notion of the Bible code comes from an ancient appreciation by the rabbis of the Talmud that they were secret messages and numerological connections knitting the Torah together. To the rabbis, this proved that the text was of superhuman origin and had buried within it prophecies and powers destined for the needs of the profoundly pious and studious, and for those who might not even be born for millennia. Some of the religious edicts in the Talmud were decided because of hidden text and odd connections between passages. The Torah. The texts which were most rich in hidden numerology and meaning were those in the creation of the world in Genesis. Even at this point in history, that story had ceased to satisfy believers, and the rabbis began to use the hidden lore to construct or rediscover a whole different level to the creation of the universe. As time progressed, they came to believe that by taking elements of the true creation, they could tap into the power of cosmic formation and modify reality itself, create minor angels to serve them, and embody living ideas into physical bodies, which they called golems. For other tasks, they employed secret names of God to command reality and spirits to do their bidding, and through visions bring them closer to an immortal, archangelic state. The Kabbalistic view of the universe is that reality is textual. Much like in the movie The Matrix, there is a code which runs reality and can be hacked into. The code in Kabbalah is not binary machine code, but the secret language of God and the angels that was used to form the universe. It is a primal language, which does not distinguish between reality and its representation. To merely say something is true, if done in a perfect language, is to make it real. True language calls things into reality. True names of persons, spirits, and even ideas allow one to transmogrify them completely or edit them out of reality as if they had never existed. The lexicon, the toolbox, and arsenal for this task is the Torah. It is the link between the primordial proto-language, the Hebrew. It is its nearest relative. To Jews, the Torah is literally a living thing, a soul, and consciousness, which if damaged must be buried in the cemetery. It is because it is so saturated with the links between consciousness and representation that it naturally must act as a repository for what it describes, actual sentience. In a sense, every single Torah is an astral computer which is woken up. The most powerful words to master were the secret names of God. The most powerful names were so remarkable that they could raise the dead, cause invisibility, flight through the air, and many other miracles. Unfortunately, names like these were meant only for archangels to utter and were often over 40 syllables long. The word you may have heard, Shem Ham Forash, comes from Shem HaMeforesh, the name of the 72. That is the potent 72-syllable name of God. Furthermore, even though these names were known, they were written without vowels. In order for them to work properly, they also had to be read aloud, with a perfect pronunciation and in a single exhalation. Rabbis train for years in order to master breath so that they can use some of these names of power. During the Renaissance, Christian Hermeticists began to incorporate elements of the Kabbalah, often without much deep understanding, as a way of supplementing a melange of rediscovered occult lore. The Hebrew god names attained new and more emphatically Hellenistic associations. Christians borrowed the use of psalms as a way of expressing magical intent, and a wild hybrid of Hellenistic pagan, Gnostic, Arabic, Catholic, and Kabbalistic magic was born. The mysterious names and symbols, which appeared in pagan Arabic texts on magic, were deemed demonic by default if they couldn't be proven to be associated with non-sentient natural forces or God's angels. The Christian Hermetics switched in Hebrew god names, psalms, and other Jewish Kabbalistic material in order to purge elements which stood immediate risk of accusations of heresy. Most modern magic stems from this somewhat quirky stew, and almost all of it without clear understanding of the sources and rationales behind the various major streams of spiritual technology which I'm describing today. Understanding these sources allow us to develop better magical rituals, especially if we try to create dynamic hybrids and want them to mesh better. There are two essential principles, however, in wizardry, which must be understood and which I've been leading up to at great length. The first is what I call textual holography. This is the principle in which powerful divine texts have been cut up and fragmented and contain a large portion of the power of the whole. Early holograms were printed on glass, and when the glass was broken, the whole image could be seen even through the smallest fragment as through a keyhole. Even though the specific fragment of sacred text would retain a touch of flavor where it originated, its main quality was power. The second principle is what I call sacred encryption. A very ancient belief is that profane text cannot cross into spiritual realms, but spirits are beings of information, and thus can understand permutations of any message instantly. By taking messages out of the profane realm, through any systematic scrambling, actually purifies the message and sends it safely to its proper destination. Whether gematria or acronyms or sigillization of angelic names are used, these are examples of how permutated sacred text aids in the communication of one's intention in the spirit world. The relevance of wizardry to black magic lays in one core notion. By taking a portion of divine essence which is paralleled in perfect sacred text, the wizard takes on the absolute moral role of God in a small way. In this manner, with sufficient skill, it is entirely possible to command even archangels to commit acts whose morality might be considered unorthodox. After all, under the command of God, they slaughtered cities and raped virgins. Using monotheistic god names to coerce sex, curse a target with death, or even command demons taps into divinity in an abstract and fairly amoral manner, but is effective. It is a keychain god with no apparent awareness. The burden is not on the angels and demons and cosmic forces. It is only on you.